And we finish in National 2 West, where there was an important result towards the bottom of the table in round 13 for 13th placed Macclesfield, where home form is proving to be key for Matt Coleridge's side as they secured a 28-24 victory over Hornets at Priory Park. It's their third home win of the season for Mac, who didn't make it easy for themselves at times, but it does keep them in touch with the sides above them. So another important home outing and a home victory for the Blues. At the other end of the standings, all of the current top 6 sides picked up bonus point wins in round 13, and it was a really, really professional showing from league leaders Camborne, who scored 10 tries to defeat bottom club Devonport Services 77 away from home. Just check out this pass from Josh Matavesi to set up Alex Ducker for their 8th try of the afternoon. A brilliant carry initially from Jordan Nichols as well. And also hooker Ben Priddy helped himself to 5 tries for Steve Larkins' side. So a really strong showing from Camborne at Devonport Services last weekend. Elsewhere, Clifton made it 7 wins in a row as they produced a very assured display to defeat Bourneville. They scored 8 tries to secure a 54-14 victory, while there were also wins of, as we said before, for the rest of the top 6, which include Taunton, Cinderford, Luctonians and Redroof, with Redroof actually moving into the top half of the table after their 31-24 success against Loughborough Students, as you can see there. Camborne's lead at the summit remains 4 points, with 6 points separating the top 4, albeit there are still a couple of games in hand to be played. At the bottom, Macclesfield have edged closer to Exeter University, who were beaten 37-17 by Cinderford, with the gap now down to 3 points, but Exeter also do have a game in hand to come in the new year. But back to the top of the table, back to the summit of the table, where Camborne are currently top of the tree, and they are our second feature club on the National League Rugby preview show this week, and for good reason, as they build up to one of the biggest derbies across National League Rugby this weekend when they welcome Redruth to the recreation ground. Now, 2,800 people attended the reverse fixture at Redruth in round 2, where Camborne came away with a 43-35 win, thanks to a blistering first half display from Steve Larkins' side, and they haven't really looked back since then, have they, Camborne? As we said just before, they are 4 points clear at the top with a game in hand, and they've suffered just 2 defeats so far this season. But both on and off the field, Camborne, who were promoted back into National League Rugby at the start of last season after over 2 decades away from this level, seem to be in a very, very good place right now. So ahead of this huge game against Redroof, ahead of this huge rivalry, we caught up with Chairman Andy Gill, as well as Director of Rugby Steve Larkins, to talk about Camborne's journey.
Yeah, I think we're pretty happy the situation we're in at the moment. Maybe at the start of the year we didn't expect to be the halfway period and be top of the league, but the signings that I made over the summer, I felt like we could definitely be up there and in that top 3. We've got some quality players now. We've got some quality coaches in Tom Kessel and Chris Fuka and Josh Matavesi, who's now taken the helm as a defensive coach. So I think it's the club has gone forward on and off the pitch, and to be top of the league going into Christmas, it's pretty pleasing, and it's an exciting place to be at the moment.
Yeah, it's been a process, Chris. More than happy with the way we're performing on the field, and that's reflected by the number that are coming through the turnstiles. You know, there's guys who turn up now every other Saturday that I haven't seen for years. So there's a bit more of a feel-good factor about Camborne as a whole, as a town, really.
Yeah, I was going to mention that, Andy, because I think it might have been Ian or Martin who said to me that, you know, this season there has been not so many familiar faces coming down. There's been new faces who have been coming down to the ground, new sets of supporters. So as a chair, that must be so pleasing to see. You know, obviously you'd love to see your die-hard fans week in, week out, but to see new supporters going, I want to spend my Saturday afternoon at Camborne, must be a really pleasing thing.
Exactly, and all credit goes to the guys. Really, they're playing a great brand of rugby that people just want to see. And you know, we can sell that quite easily to prospective punters. And the word, it doesn't, you know, it doesn't take long for the word to get around. If you want to see some great rugby, then go down to Camborne and watch some superb stuff, really.
This season, we've had some outstanding games, no more so than last weekend against Devonport, where I think we showed truly what we can do. There were some quality tries, but on top of that, there was some quality defence as well. Somebody asked me the other day, said, "Do you kick many penalties?" And we've kicked 3 all year. So Kyle Moyles kicked 2, and Josh Matavesi kicked 1. So it kind of says our intentions of how we want to play, how we want it to be a brand of rugby, but also it's got to be an entertainment for fans to come through that the turnstiles. As Andy said, if we're getting close to 1,000 people, and hopefully on Saturday could be up to 3,000 or 4,000 people. It shows what a product we've got at the moment, and also as well the excitement of how exciting some of the players we've got. To have people like Josh, Kyle Moyle, Alex Ducker, to name but a few. CJ Boyce, who stepped up from St Austell, and he's been a breath of fresh air. And so we've got these guys along with the people that got us into the league originally. So yeah, exciting times. And as I said there, if we can get more and more people to come to Camborne, it's a pretty cheap day out to watch some internationals and Premiership players, and also to have a beer as well, which is not £8 or £9 a pint.
And just on going back to your point that you said there, Steve, about kind of the players that you've got at Camborne. I know kind of sort of, if I'm right in saying, correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, sort of in the second half of last season, you were hit by injuries quite heavily, weren't you? And it kind of, after, I think you might have been third around this time last year, it kind of just slipped away a little bit in that second half of the season. So was it key for you to kind of firstly bolster the squad in the summer, but also continue to attract the quality of player that we are seeing week in, week out at Camborne? Because as you rattled off some names there, these guys have got bucket loads of experience, but are choosing Camborne to play the rugby at.
Yeah, last year there was a couple of games. One in particular, we had 19 unavailabilities due to injury, and that hits any club. It just meant over the summer that, one, I wanted to kind of bolster the squad in terms of quality, and we've seen that with people like Jack, Andrew and Kyle joining us. But also on top of that, 8 or 9 youngsters have joined as well, which it's been crucial to make sure the second team develops. And those boys now are getting a really good chance of National League Rugby with us. And, 3 or 4 of them have already made their debut for the first team.
Steve's done a marvellous job. He's got a lot of contacts in the local rugby world. And, and he gets... I think he'd be the first to admit that when he went out sort of like looking for players, now players are looking for him, if you see what I mean. It's a bit easier for Steve now to sort of like attract players to Camborne, and it is because I think once players come to us and get the taste and see what we offer as a club, we can build for the future. There's an ethos set as well from the second team, as Steve said. Building through. There's a pathway now for players in the second team to play Nat 2 rugby. Hopefully, Nat 1 next year. But and long may it continue.
We started the ball rolling, 2 or 3 years ago now, and tried to sign kind of a marquee player, and we managed to do that with people like Nico Di Battista, who joined us from Pirates. We won the league that year, and then Josh Matavesi joined us, and then Kyle Moyle, and then we've had Josh Bellamy, a under-20 World Cup winner, joining us. Sam Walker's joined us from Exeter now. So we've had some talented boys coming through, and maybe 3 years ago, if we'd have said you're going to have 3 or 4 ex-Prem players, a couple of champ players, a international playing for Camborne, we may have just said, stop now. You're in now kind of dream world. But it's come around. It's a great club on and off the pitch. As Andy said there, the volunteers and how the club moves forward, the sponsorship committee from the board down to the minis, the juniors, the colts, the ladies. It's a great place to be. And I just think that's helpful for not only the club to develop, but the town as well. There's a real buzz around the town now.
Yeah, I was going to kind of come on to the off the pitch report that you've had, Andy, because I was reading kind of Martin's notes that he sent through last week, and I know kind of Tony Chapman has been a big part of that. He's got such a strong affiliation with the club anyway, but I guess that extra sponsorship all goes collectively into what Camborne are trying to achieve both on and off the pitch.
Yeah. Tony's input has been immense, really, and we probably couldn't have done half of what we've done without his assistance financially. But it's nice, you know. Tony, I know Tony. I played with Tony back in the day, and hats off to him, self-made man, you know. And he's willing now to put something back into the club where he learned his rugby.
Messaged me probably 4 or 5 times today already, and we've just arranged because he can't manage to get to the game, so he's now going to have a live link sent to him so he can watch the game live, because otherwise his brother's normally standing at pitch side with a mobile phone recording the entire game and shouting at him if he misses any of the action. So hopefully he'll have a live link to the game this weekend, so he's not missing anything. He's in France at the moment and he can't make the game, which is a shame, but we know that he'll be in and around the club, and messages and phone calls 2 or 3 times a week. It's good to see that he wants to be kind of hands-on. He wants to know what's going on in the club, but he's also very, very supportive of whatever we do here at Camborne, which is another thing which was pushed us towards the top of the league.
Yeah, absolutely, Steve. Now, we've talked a lot about kind of the structure, the journey Camborne have been on, but let's get into kind of Saturday's game against Redruth. Now, I have a question for both of you, really, and I asked it to Nigel Hamley when you guys played Redruth back in round 2. Does this week feel any different to a normal week when you are preparing for a game? Do you wake up on Monday morning when that alarm goes off and goes, yeah, it's game week and Redruth are coming to town on Saturday? Does it feel any different for you guys?
I think after we got over the Devonport game, focus kind of turned to the Redruth game. There wasn't a lot of talk about Redruth leading up to the Devonport. We wanted to make sure that we could potentially go up there and lose because they'd beaten Redruth and Loughborough up there. So we focused on that, and then from Monday, it did turn to Redruth, and it does feel a little bit different. There's no doubt. People will say, it's just a game, it's just another game, it's another 5 points, but there is a different atmosphere around. It's that there's going to be lots of rivalry. Lots of our players, I played for Redruth as well. Chris Fook has played for Redruth. Lots of our players have, and lots of the Redruth boys have played for Camborne. So we know each other kind of inside out, and we know what a big game it is. Everyone buys into it, that little bit of rivalry. It does go a bit too far sometimes. We know that there's a few keyboard warriors out there that love their little say, but that's part of it, and we know that there'll be a little bit of chat leading up to the game.
Dave Pemberthy, who's president at Redruth, we are of a similar age, and Dave takes great delight in reminding me that he played against me when I made my first team debut for Camborne in a Camborne Redruth derby. So, yeah, I'm not saying what year that was, mate, but that's where we go, and we still have a beer and before the game, but there's still that. There's still your Camborne, I'm Redruth, or your Redruth, I'm Camborne, whichever way it goes. But it's all friendly banter, really. One of our older members used to have a saying that he wouldn't have a red apple in his house because that's the colour of a Redruth shirt. So apocryphal maybe, but it could have been true.
And just finally, guys, a win over Redruth, would that be the best early Christmas present you guys can wish for before the big day itself?
Yeah, I think I'll go on, Andy, you go first.
Well, the long answer is hell yes. Short answer is yes. Yeah. They'll take a win over Redruth any day, Chris. Yeah.
I think all our families would agree with that as well. If we can get a kind of win, we don't want to be like bears with a sore head and real grumpy for the whole of Christmas. And rugby does have a massive effect on not only our lives but our families' lives as well, because everyone has to buy into it. Girlfriends, wives, they're the ones that give up lots as well for enable us to do this, for all the travel we do. And the last thing they want is 20 grumpy blokes hanging around the Christmas table talking about how we didn't win or how we should have played better or whatever. So we know it's a big one. If there's 3,500, 4,000 people, which it could happen on Saturday, then that would be great for National League Rugby, because I think that crowd could be higher than lots of Championship, and even I heard that if we get 4,000, that could be higher than one Premiership game that happened a couple of years ago, which only got 3,700. So we just hope it's going to be a great spectacle, a great advertisement for this league, but more importantly, kind of an advertisement for Camborne, how they can run big events with the volunteers, the players we've got, the committee, and often on the field. It should be a great occasion again, and they never fail to disappoint these games. We haven't had a poor one yet, and I hope on Saturday it's another beauty.
And a huge thanks to both Andy and Steve for their time this week. So much anticipation ahead of Saturday's meeting with Red Roof, and who will be taking that very, very, very short trip down the A30 to face their near neighbours. And just to reiterate as well, tickets for Saturday's game will be available on the gate, and Camborne are maybe hoping for a crowd of over 3,000, maybe even over 3,500. So that would be absolutely phenomenal if they were able to achieve that. So make sure you do get down early to soak up the atmosphere. Steve was telling me apparently the club is setting up 6 different bars, so you're sure to enjoy yourself at the recreation ground on Saturday. And it is also hopefully going to be a brilliant advert for National League Rugby, especially with Camborne sitting top of the pile at the moment and Redruth coming into this weekend on an unbeaten run of 4 games. So let's have a look at the final set of fixtures for 2024 in National 2 West then. And Bourneville host Macclesfield at Avery Fields, with the home side aiming to halt a run of 5 straight defeats. But remember, Mac did win the reverse fixture 31-28 back in round 2. Exeter University will be looking to do something similar to Bourneville as they look to arrest a run of 3 successive losses when they host bottom of the table Devonport Services. It does feel like a really important game for both of those sides, and whichever one can get a victory, it will set them up nicely going in to the new year. The All Midlands Affair sees Loughborough Students go to Hinckley. Hinckley are back at home after their 27-17 loss to second place Taunton last time out, where they showed great fight and determination, and it's something the 11th place side will be hoping to bring to the table again this weekend in front of their home supporters. Speaking of Taunton, they are on the road again, and as they face 9th placed Hornets, who are actually unbeaten in 5 home games, so that won't be a straightforward afternoon for second place Taunton. 3rd place Cinderford are unbeaten in 5 games themselves, full stop, and that run and their momentum will be put to the test this weekend away at 5th place Luctonians, who stormed to a 40-10 win over Old Redcliffians last time out. And Old Reds themselves welcome 4th place Clifton to Scotland Lane for the Bristol Derby, with the visitors aiming to extend their excellent winning run to 8 matches.